Hello, welcome back. Sorry it's been a long time since I've done a video. I've been very busy. Today I wanted to do one about the DJI Smart Battery for both the Inspire 1 and the Phantom 3 when using in cold conditions. Now we're in winter. Around the forums, around various places, there's been a lot of talk about some problems, some things happening, some strange behaviour from the batteries, especially in cold conditions. And there are a few things DJI have done, and there's a few things you can do to make sure you don't get any problems when in the field. Both the Inspire 1 TB47 and 48 and the Phantom 3 batteries are intelligent flight batteries. What seems to have been happening is in flight, in cold conditions, either the voltage has been sagging of the cell, so the battery cell voltage has dropped to a level and the aircraft enters auto landing, or in some extreme cases the battery is actually turned off altogether and the craft has just dropped to the ground. Now, as a result of this, DJI have actually released two firmware updates. It was one firmware update for the Phantom 3 and two for the Inspire 1. For the Inspire, the first update was version 1.530, which was meant to address battery level fluctuations and pack shutdowns. This was a battery update, so you would need to update every battery you have as well. Then shortly afterwards they introduced version 1.6, which added a new feature to the Inspire, which reduced throttle output under cold conditions. I'll talk more about this in a minute. On the Phantom 3 they released only one update, which was version 1.60040. This contained both of the updates the Inspire had in one update. So it updated the battery to prevent it turning off, and it updated the craft to add this new limitation in cold conditions. Now what this limitation is if the aircraft temperature, or I should say battery temperature, is too low, it will prevent you using full throttle under certain conditions. The reason for this is it stops you putting too much load on the battery, causing it to reach the low voltage cutoff and shutting off. So DJI have added in a throttling, is probably the term to use, a way of them looking at the temperature, and if the temperature is too low it stops you using full throttle. Some people are happy about this, some people are not happy about this. I would highly recommend everybody updates to version 1.6. One thing you could do is actually update to version 1.6, update your batteries, and then roll back to version 1.5. If you did this, your craft would go back to version 1.5, so you would not have this throttling of the power you've got available. However, batteries do not downgrade when you downgrade firmware, so the battery would still have the important update to prevent it shutting down in flight and giving you correct readings. So ideally I would suggest everybody updates to version 1.6. However, if you feel that the throttling isn't for you, some people have reported not being able to fly as well in high wind situations. I'm not convinced. I've not really seen much evidence of that myself, but whenever something is introduced that takes something away from people, there can always be a little bit of controversy around it, so people tend to not want it. But again, I would recommend everybody goes up to version 1.6. Now, with regards to flying in cold conditions, there are a few things you can do. DJI have put out some tips themselves about the batteries and flying and the temperature. First thing, you can't do this on the Phantom 3, but on the Inspire 1, DJI do make battery insulation stickers. I'll put a link for them in the video for the TB47, and they're available for the TB48 as well. So you can get them. These are little, very thin, just foam that goes on the side of the battery. Still has all the information on it, so you can still know what battery it is, the capacity, and you can label it up. But what that does is to prevent the battery getting too cold in flight, because in the Inspire the battery is exposed. The battery will lose a lot more heat than it will in the Phantom 3. Now, with regards to flying, there's the things you can do, and there's a few very simple steps you can do. There really is. The first is, do not push the battery too hard, especially if it's a new battery. For your first 10 flights, try and take it as easy as you can on your new battery. Don't discharge it below 50% if you can. Definitely don't discharge it below 35-40%. Try and just take it easy on a new battery, and don't be heavy on it. Don't run it full throttle continuously. Just let it ease in. Lipos, especially new ones, have a chemical in them when they're new to help maintain them in storage, and this chemical basically gets used up in the charging process. So after your first sort of 5 to 10 charges, that chemical is no longer there. So it's like an inhibitor. So the battery can take a bit of time to gain its full capacity. So take that into account. The second thing is, do not fly a partly charged battery. Some people agree with this, some people don't. A lot of crashes and drop out the skies were caused by simply flying a battery that was not fully charged. A battery that has been sitting at partial charge for 1, 5, 10 days. The problem is the batteries have a self-discharge circuit, so that may have kicked in, and there seems to be a few issues around reporting with some packs. It doesn't seem to be on every one, but the odd pack seems to report its capacity and then suddenly will report no capacity left at all. You put it on charge, and then within 2-3 minutes it comes back up to full capacity again. But do not fly a partly charged pack. If the battery is not fully charged, it is not worth risking flying. If you've been out flying and you stop for 10 minutes and then start flying again, I wouldn't even recommend flying that battery again. Honestly, it is one of the more riskier things you can do with a LiPo battery. They should only be flown fully charged. With regards to that, they should also be freshly fully charged. Charged within the last 24 hours, ideally, no more than 12 if you can help it. Don't charge it, leave it 4 days and then go fly it. The problem with that was A, the self-discharge may kick in. B, they do begin to lose their punch a little bit. Batteries, the LiPos are very powerful batteries, but they're not long-term storage. They are designed for taking huge amounts of power in and then giving you that huge amounts of power back in very short periods of time. They're not designed like a lead acid battery to hold lots of power but over longer periods. So again, only fly a freshly fully charged battery. If it's been fully charged for 2 days and then you want to go fly, put it back on charge before you do take it out. You'll have to turn the battery on first before it will start to charge again. So unlike when you normally charge it, it'll come on itself. If it's over 90% charge, it will need to be turned on before charging. But if it has been sitting for a few days, pop it on charge, turn it on and let it top back off before you take it out. Regularly calibrate your battery. DJI recommend calibrating your battery every 20 cycles. What calibration is as simply as charging the battery fully, flying it down to below 5%. So what will happen is actually when you get 10%, your craft will auto land. So the way to do it is take your craft for a flight, fly it round. When you're getting towards the 10% area, bring it back in and just hover it close by. As soon as it gets to 10%, the craft will auto land. Leave it sitting there on the ground, turned on. Let that battery get down to below 5%. When the battery has got to below 5%, or it has turned itself off, eventually it will turn itself off, you then leave it at least half an hour, and then fully recharge it again from that position right to full. What that has done is calibrated the electronic fuel gauge in the battery, so it then knows how good the cells are that are in the battery, what condition those cells are in and what voltage curve those cells have. Finally, and this is a really important one, is keep the battery warm before you fly. Now, charge your battery in ambient temperatures. Try not to charge them in cold temperatures. If it's sort of 10, 15 degrees C, it's a little bit cold. Try and charge them in a room of 20 if you can. Then do not let its temperature drop. Keep the battery's temperature at least 25 degrees if you can, 20 to 25. Keeping it above 20 degrees will stop the cells sagging in flight. Ideally, charge the battery just before you fly. Keep it as warm as you can, and then keep that temperature, put it into the craft and get it out. That should stop the cells sagging. A couple of tips people have been using is hot water bottles. You can get these little hand warmers you can get for the microwaves. People have been doing that. Just anything to keep that battery's temperature up. You know, put them all in a little case together with a water bottle in the middle. Just keep them warm. The cold temperature is the danger, because what happens is when you put it into flight, especially under high throttle loads, the cell voltages will sag. What sag is it will drop rapidly compared to where it should be, and the battery has self-protection that if the cell voltages drop too low, it tries to protect itself to stop it getting damaged, and it can cause the battery to turn off. Now, the update I talked about earlier, DJI release, should resolve this. However, for the best safety, keep the battery warm. It really is something I cannot stress enough. And lastly, as a warm, is just don't be too heavy on the packs. When you take off, do not take off at full throttle. You don't need to punch it to get it off the ground. You know, just take off gently for the first couple of minutes of flight. Don't go full throttle or full forward speed. Just keep everything back a little bit. As you start taking the current out of the battery will actually warm up itself, so it will produce its own heat. But it needs to do that. It's no different to having a warm engine on a car. You shouldn't really hammer an engine on a car when the oil is cold. It's the same with these batteries. Let them have some temperature in them before you give it full power. Now, if you have warmed the battery, this sort of takes that away. But again, you only need to use full throttle if you absolutely have to. It's not something you should be doing regularly, because really there is no need for it. And that's it. I just wanted to talk around the smart packs, some of the things people have been doing, some of the problems people have been having. I hope this may help you out. Thank you for watching the video. Sorry there's not really a lot gone on in this one, and we'll post another one soon. Thank you very much.